Hey guys, it's Jonathan here. Let me give you, I'm going to kind of go all Gary Vaynerchuk on you. Let's see what's on the radio. All right. Uh-oh. There you go. I want to tell you a story about my first corporate job. This was a publicly traded, this is before I went out on my own and started my own company, mylendingplace.com. I'm sitting here in front of one of my favorite Starbucks. And I thought, let me just let me talk to you about one of the liabilities that lending companies or banks have as a whole. And again, I'm not saying this as a guy that's 21 years old coming out of college. I've worked with lots of banks, and like I said, I'm one of the few people that have built their own company, and that company lasted a decade. So here's the question, hashtag, is our need to be affirmed? How big is our need to be affirmed, and how is that need to be affirmed affecting our profitability? So, for example, the first company I went to work for, second company I went to work for, is a publicly traded company called Accredited Home Lenders. Now, they don't exist anymore because back in that day, the herd mentality was go hire a bunch of reps, push a lot of loans, get those loans on secondary, make a lot of money. And guess what? It worked. It worked really, really well, and there was lots of business that came in. But here's the thing: is even then the employees started to kind of notice, like, some of this lending just doesn't make sense. We'll give this loan. This guy is one day out of bankruptcy, 100% loan, but this person who's a self-employed individual who's run a company for 5 or 6 years, he can't get a loan because he's self-employed. And so even back in the day, before the housing crisis happened and before the meltdown happened, the employees as a whole kind of saw some of the holes in the company. But of course, those large companies, they don't really want employees with a voice. They don't want employees with intelligence. They really just want people to sit in the chair, do that job, turn that knob, boom, 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 boom. And that's kind of the corporate culture. And most people who succeed in the lending corporate culture are kind of Me Too type people. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Whatever you need. You need 5 reps. Let's do 5 reps. So let me give you a real quick story. A scenario. Let's say that I were to walk in. Let's say that I would have worked for that company for a year, and let's say that I wanted to have a meeting with the president of Accredited Home Lenders, which, by the way, is no longer in existence. And what if I were to sat down with him and said, I understand the secondary model, I understand the need for a secondary model, and how we get a DU LP approval, sell that loan, it's profitable. But what if I would have suggested to him, well, let's also build a portfolio line where 40% of our loans are portfolio or in-house and serviced in-house. If I would have done that, that company would have been saved, and that company would still be in existence, because as a general rule, banks with a portfolio lending group or put an emphasis on portfolio lending, they're more successful, and they pass the legacy test. They last year after year after year. So let me say this. Here I am, a YouTube guy about to go get some Starbucks, and I'm talking about the value of portfolio lending. So here's the commercial. I would love to come consult for I would love to bring my experience to either small banks or large banks. But one of the things that I would say to a large bank or even a mid-sized bank is the need for portfolio lending or in-house lending where loans are kept and serviced in-house. I'm talking solid loans, 80, 90% loan to values, solid scores, kind of old school stuff. If I were to advocate that, then would you hear that? Or would you just kind of become like another sales manager and go, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, John, but we just are making so much money on secondary. So let me say it this way. Mark this video, and then in the next 10 years, the banks that have built a portfolio line or a portfolio group, those are the banks that are going to be around. I didn't say those are the banks that are going to be profitable. I'm saying those are the banks that are going to be around. And unfortunately, in the lending world, we've kind of bought into this Facebook mentality where all the sales managers and the sales reps and the account reps, all these people have such a herd mentality of pushing everything to the secondary that the bank itself, the actual integrity, the strength, the foundational profit of that bank is not even built because everything is sold off. And so the banks don't have any inherent value. They're just mechanisms to get everything to the secondary. So if you would like me to come consult to your bank, small bank, mid-sized bank, mortgage company, one of the things that I would definitely suggest to you, in fact, I would be emphatic, maybe not as emphatic as I am in this video, but if you paid me to come consult with you, one thing I would say is I would give you the number 30 to 40. And I would say pick a number between 30 and 40, and you'd say maybe 40%. I'd say 40% of your loans, if you want to last, need to be in a portfolio capacity. Solid scores, solid loan to value, where you're servicing these loans, not selling them to the secondary. Unfortunately, the secondary market has been a double-edged sword. It has been so good in terms of bringing liquidity to the market, but in terms of bringing lasting legacy, profit, strength, the secondary market has undercut banks. And let me kind of give a final note and talk about the need for local banking. Here I am 40. The idea of having a local bank where decisions are made locally, not on a federal level, but on a local level. Here's my dream. I have many dreams and many things that I want to advocate for. But, one thing Martin Luther King said is, he says, you got to speak your dream. You got to speak your truth. And Thaddeus Gola says, sing a happy note and people will join you. If you think in terms of cannabis, what cannabis did for the local 10th Amendment, I know this is kind of a stretch for some people, but basically Colorado as a state said, you know what? The 10th Amendment says that states have the rights, states have the power. And what they did is they pushed for a plant that they liked, and they legalized it on a state level. And it's still federally not allowed, but on a state level it is. That equivalent, I would love to bring to the lending world, whereas we bypass some federal laws to keep the integrity of local state banking. And one of the best ways to do that is to build a portfolio group. If you're interested in learning more, if you'd like me to come speak to your organization, get ready, because in between now and the next 10 years, the voices of Me Too and yes sir, yes ma'am, those are the voices that are going to get lending in trouble. There needs to be wisdom. There needs to be voices of wisdom, of experience, of people who have started companies, people who have been in the trenches. And 20-year-olds are great. 23-year-olds are great. I love dating a good 28-year-old, But when it comes to business, here's another thing that is equally as important as intelligence, and that's experience and wisdom. And one thing I love about Gary Vaynerchuk is, and you can go look him up, hashtag Gary Says, or look him up. Gary Vaynerchuk, he's a great guy. But one thing that Gary Vaynerchuk is speaking to the social media space, and he's saying as a whole, he's like, guys, we got to build good companies. The foundation needs to be good companies, not just getting likes and these transitory profits. So if I were to be like Gary Vaynerchuk to the lending world, I would say the same thing. Is we have to go back and start building good lending companies and good finance companies. And one solution, it's not the solution, but a solution to building a good bank, good finance, is portfolio lending on a state level. If you'd like to learn more, like me to come speak to your organization, let me know, americano417@gmail.com. I'm going to go drink some coffee, like I need some. Probably need to get some decaf. You guys have a great day. Jonathan, americano417@gmail.com.